The British cope with the third lockdown surprisingly well. Due to the great progress in vaccination, the country now hopes that no further shutdown is necessary. But the vaccine dispute with Brussels endangers the ambitious goal of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. After 3 months of lockdown, the first steps towards opening began in England on Monday. With immediate effect, meetings of up to 6 people outdoors are again allowed. Organized outdoor sports are possible, tennis and soccer fields as well as outdoor pools are open again. And the end of the strict regional movement restrictions allows excursions in the area. The next round is planned for April 12th, with the opening of shops and restaurants and pubs. The latter are initially only allowed to pour and serve outdoors. Even before these new rules take effect, it becomes clear that the country's economy has put up with a third lockdown with similarly strict rules as in spring 2020 much better than the economic stop a year ago. Unemployment fell slightly in the 3 months to the end of January. The Purchasing Managers' Index is clearly pointing upwards. In January, economic output shrank by 2.9% despite the lockdown and significantly less than expected. According to Reuters, economists had expected a minus of 4.9%. The vaccination rates are higher than in the US and the EU, and the resulting optimism is now being carried over to the economy, said Sandra Holdsworth, bond expert at Aegon Asset Management. In short, the nation has become more confident and has money to spend, she says. Last week, Michael Saunders of the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee admitted that the data so far suggested that GDP in the first quarter will be less weak than was expected in the Monetary Policy Report in February. The central bank is still assuming a shrinkage of 4.2%. Bank analysts now only expect a decline in economic output of between 1 and 2.5%. Great Britain is doing much better than a year ago. The first lockdown in April 2020 pushed economic output down by 18%. The decline of 9.8% for the year as a whole made only Argentina look worse among the large industrialized countries of the G20. The prospects for the island are now better compared to the Eurozone. While the third COVID-19 wave there is leading to an extension of the restrictions, the British vaccination advances give hope that the lockdown, which is coming to an end, could be the last. The longer consumers and businesses experience the lockdown conditions, the better they adapt and find ways to continue their economic activities almost as normal, Andrew Goodwin, chief economist at Oxford Economics, told the Financial Times. Even the catering, entertainment and retail sectors that are hardest hit by the restrictions, fared significantly better in January than in April 2020, according to the data from the ONS Statistics Agency. They are increasingly relying on e-commerce, event streaming or home deliveries. Compared to February 2020, that means the time before the start of the pandemic, their sales have shrunk. But the minus of April 2020 was much more pronounced in all areas than in January, in some cases by more than 20 percentage points. March data shows companies are preparing for a hefty spending boom if the next easing allows. The Purchasing Managers' Index, a regular survey of business activity, jumped to 56.6 payers for the month from 49.6 in February. A number over 50 indicates economic growth. Samples also show that businesses from hotels to retailers to restaurants have started hiring to prepare for more consumption and more economic activity in the coming months. Andy Haldane, chief economist at the Bank of England, promised a fantastic upswing, as he calls it. And he said the British economy is ready for a solid leap, said Sanya Raja of Deutsche Bank. She is particularly optimistic for the first half of 2021. In addition to the better than expected data for the first few months of the year, this is also due to the expectation of a surge in spending from April. During the lockdown months, the British amassed £160 billion in savings. Some of this is likely to be consumed in the coming months, especially since the feared rise in unemployment has not yet materialized. The short-time working model that was introduced at the beginning of the pandemic is currently in force until the end of September. But the optimistic outlook after the worst economic slump in the UK and for its economy in more than 300 years is not without uncertainties. An important condition is a speedy continuation of the vaccination strategy. 57% of adults in the country have already received their first dose, with only a few states doing better. But an ongoing dispute with the EU over vaccine supplies threatens Prime Minister Boris Johnson's ambitious goal of vaccination the entire adult population by the middle of the year. Despite all the euphoria of central banker Haldane, other members of the Monetary Policy Committee remain much more cautious. Saunders is one of them, as are Silvana Tenreiro and Jonathan Haskell. They do not rule out that the need for further financial stimulus from the bank. It will take time to show who has the right arguments, says Raja. He too expects significantly slower growth in the second half of the year. Then not only will the pent-up demand as a growth driver weaken, and the effects of the pandemic on the labor market should become visible. In addition, the significant effects of Brexit on trade would then also become apparent. And that's a thing that was covered up a little bit by the pandemic, because the government is doing their part as well to make people believe that this is all part of happening because of the pandemic. A lot we see at the moment is because of Brexit, but you can't take it completely separately in numbers from the pandemic, and so you can excuse a lot of what's happening with the pandemic. But when the pandemic is over, the real effects of Brexit in numbers will show. At the moment we see a lot of other consequences and a lot of other barriers, a lot of other issues, but nothing really can be singled out in numbers. And to the lockdown, I'm happy for them when they start opening retail again. Retail here, for example, is open for some time now. You just have to make an appointment to get in, because we have a limitation per square meter how many people can get in. Or not for 1 square meter, need to be more. And so we can go shopping with appointment, but it made life much easier. We can get haircuts and everything. And I was yesterday again. And that is much better. And of course, it's better for the economy. Our shops are working. And so it will help in the UK when they can open again too. And our restaurants usually have been switching to deliveries or pickups, and that's possible for a long time now. And we are using that to help them out and to keep them alive. And so I do believe absolutely that it will improve a lot when they open again. Everybody knows that. But we will see how much. And then when this is over, and we're not talking about the vaccine discussion right now, that will take some time as well. When this is all over, then we will see what is really the effect of Brexit. And I'm quite sure some people will be surprised how much of damage remains just because of Brexit. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.